All right, let's talk about something we all do every single second: breathing. But what if I told you the air we're breathing is on red alert? The latest global data paints a pretty shocking picture. So let's just dive right in. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that, honestly, it's pretty hard to believe. 17%. That's it. According to the World Health Organization, that is the tiny, tiny fraction of cities around the globe where the air is actually considered safe to breathe. It's a wild figure, right? And it immediately makes you wonder, yeah, exactly. I mean, if that's the tiny sliver of us with clean air, what on earth is in the air that everyone else is breathing? Let's get into the global diagnosis. So, to really wrap our heads around this, we need to meet the main villain of the story. And this is a pollutant that's so tiny you can't even see it, but its impact, well, it's absolutely massive. We're talking about something called PM 2.5. Now, to give you a sense of just how small this stuff is, picture a single strand of your hair. One of these particles is about 30 times smaller than that. And because they're so microscopic, they just sneak right past our body's defenses. They go deep into our lungs and can even get into our bloodstream. And that's where the real trouble starts. And this chart, wow, it really puts that 17% number into perspective, doesn't it? You can just see it right there. That huge, overwhelming 83% of cities have PM 2.5 levels way above what the WHO says is safe. And this isn't just a big city problem. It's happening at a countrywide scale. In fact, get this. Out of 138 countries where we even have the data, only 7 of them met the WHO standard for safe air in 2024. I'll say it again. Just 7. We're talking Australia, Estonia, Iceland, New Zealand. A very, very short list. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum. Take a look at this. The 5 most polluted countries, their average PM 2.5 levels are 10, 15, even more than 18 times higher than the safety guideline. It's just a completely different reality. The scale of exposure in these places is what's so critical to grasp. So let's zoom in on the region that's really at the heart of this crisis. Okay, we're now looking at Central and South Asia. And folks, this is, without a doubt, the global epicenter for air pollution. The numbers we're about to see are just on another level. Just think about this for a second. This one region is home to the top 7 most polluted cities in the entire world. And if we zoom in even more, 92 of the world's 100 most polluted cities are all in a single country, India. It's staggering. But we have to remember, these aren't just numbers on a chart. They represent a real, devastating human cost. In 2019 alone, it's estimated that PM 2.5 pollution led to more than 1.2 million premature deaths in India. 1.2 million. This is basically a public health emergency that's just unfolding in slow motion. So the big question is, what is causing all this? What's creating this toxic air? Right, so that thick haze you see blanketing cities like Delhi, well, it's not from just one thing. It's more like a really complex and frankly stubborn cocktail of emissions coming from all over the place. And this chart really breaks it down for us. The sources are just so varied. You've got household emissions from cooking and heating, you've got tons of exhaust from cars and trucks, you've got industrial pollution, and then there's the huge practice of burning crops and waste. Oh, and on top of all that, just simple dust from roads and construction. It's a problem with a lot of moving parts. And believe it or not, the weather makes it even worse. See, in the winter, the weather creates this perfect storm. The cold, calm air acts like a giant lid that clamps down over the cities, trapping all those pollutants right where people are breathing. And this happens to be the same time that agricultural crop burning is at its peak. It's a terrible combination. But then contrast that with the monsoon season. You get strong winds, you get rain, and it literally washes the sky clean. That's when you see the best air quality all year. But that seasonal smog, its impact is felt in every single part of daily life. I mean, it's gotten so bad that the courts have actually had to step in. They've ordered schools to stop kids from playing outside during those polluted winter months, just to protect their health. I think we can all agree, when you have to tell children they can't play outdoors, you know you have a very, very serious problem on your hands. Okay, so the problem is pretty clear, right? It's severe. The next logical question is, what's actually being done about it? How do you fight back against this smog? Well, it's not being ignored. As you can see from this timeline, there's been a real push for policy changes over the past couple of decades. It really started ramping up with stricter vehicle emissions back in '99, Then we saw a big national clean air program launched in 2019. And then, and this is a big one, a huge leap in fuel standards happened in 2020. So this jump to what's called BS5 fuel, it's a really big deal. We're talking about the chemistry here. It slashed the amount of sulfur by 80%. 80! And it hugely cut down on nitrogen oxide from diesel engines. Now, a change like this is not easy, right? It costs more for people, it's a massive headache for the industry, but it fundamentally changes what's coming out of millions and millions of tailpipes every single day. So, is it actually working? And the early data says, yeah, it seems to be. Research points to a turning point right around 2018. PM 2.5 levels actually started to trend downwards in most of the country. It's a small sign, but it's a powerful one. It shows that when you take real, coordinated action, you can, in fact, start to clear the air.
All right, so let's zoom back out from India for a minute. Let's look at the bigger picture again, at the challenges we're all facing under this one shared sky.
One of the biggest hurdles is something you probably wouldn't even think of. It's a giant gap in the data. In Africa, for instance, there's only one official air quality monitor for every 3.7 million people. Think about that. You're basically flying blind. And this isn't just an African problem. Other places are dealing with their own data black holes, whether it's from industrial zones or the growing threat of wildfire smoke in North America. The good news is we're seeing low-cost sensors, often put up by regular citizens and community groups, starting to fill in some of those critical blanks. And as Frank Hammes from IQ Air puts it, this data isn't just for scientists. He says, air quality data saves lives. And he's right. It's the first step. It creates awareness, it helps guide policy, it empowers people to act. But even when you have the data, even when the problem is crystal clear, the path forward can get pretty complicated. Take this little paradox, for example. In Southeast Asia, everyone wants nickel, right? It's essential for the batteries in electric cars. But the process of getting that nickel out of the ground uses a ton of energy. And to get that energy, they're building more coal power plants. So the race to build green technology is actually making air pollution worse in some places. It's a perfect example of how even the best solutions can have these tricky, unintended consequences. And that really brings us to the final big question. The problem is massive. The health impacts are devastating. But we've also seen that real change is possible. Policy and technology can make a difference. The whole challenge is just so complex, so interconnected, and so incredibly urgent. So it leaves you wondering, who is going to step up and lead this global fight for something as basic as clean air?